Hi, Jason. Hi, and hi, everyone. Thank you for joining me for the Recession Proof Investing series, where we have top experts sharing their secrets for lasting success and financial freedom. Today, we have Jason Butler. I'm so excited to have him. Jason, could you share more about your background and the work you do with our audience?
Yeah, well, I fell into financial services at the age of 20, just coming up to 21. And back in those days, it wasn't very regulated in the UK, which is where I come from. And I thought, oh, well, I'd do that for a year to earn some money before I sort of decided to go traveling or whatever. Um, and 25 years later, I ended up selling the firm that I'd founded and then was running with other people and sort of semi-retired at 46, 45.
Nice.
And for the last 5, 6 years, because I don't believe in retirement, but I got to a situation where I had options and I had built some money and some wealth. And for the last 6 years, I focused on teaching people very basic money skills, but also to have what I call a very honest relationship with money, and that money is a force for good, that it's their servant, not their master, and that they have it in proportion, that they don't give money more power than it needs to be, but they know how to kind of avoid the pitfalls. Even if I can't tell you all the ways to always be perfect with money, but to avoid some of the pitfalls and be the best version of you, and enjoy life. So I don't think I know all the answers. I don't for 1 minute say that I'm the finished article. I'm always curious. I'm always looking to learn. But at 52 years of age, I doubt that there's many people out there who have made as many mistakes as I have, and therefore learning from those mistakes, being curious, being humble, and being eager to help people be the best version that they can. I'm happy to share what life has taught me.
That's exciting. That's very good. And so, with last year with COVID, how has that been for you, specifically around just financial wise and the work that you've done? You mentioned you have particular investments. How has that fared for you? I know it was a very difficult time for a lot of members from the audience.
It was very difficult, and I'm under no illusion with people living in small apartments with homeschooling, or they've had a drop in their income. I've seen it all because, as you know, I do a lot of work. I do live financial wellbeing talks, I do masterclasses, I do keynotes. So for me personally, we're lucky that we've lived in the same house for 23 years.
Wow.
And we've got an acre of ground here in Suffolk. It's like a holiday every day, really. I'm sitting in the gardens now. I'm not saying I've made it, but I bought this when I was 29, and I still don't to this day know how I managed to do it. But having a good home was very important to us. Space, we do take it for granted, obviously, because we're human, right? But so what happened with COVID is I was busier than I've ever been. Obviously, live keynotes stopped, but then virtual webinars went through the roof. Couldn't get enough, and I do these for big companies, Tesco, Mighty, Sainsbury's, BT, you name it, I do them for them. So I must have presented wellbeing, virtual wellbeing webinars and talks. Well, I don't know, must be to 150, 200,000 people, easy.
Wow.
And I also answered live questions in that. And so I do think I was very privileged to get a sense of where people were coming from. And it seems to me that what was happening there was that there was people either saving money like they'd never saved before because they just had no opportunity to spend it. Other people at the other end of the spectrum who were very, very frightened and very vulnerable, and therefore their prior vulnerabilities were shown in stark relief because of what happened. And then there were people in between who didn't quite know what it meant. They weren't hurting, but they weren't thriving.
Right.
And I know that through my sessions that I did, I managed to get those people in the middle moving to the more optimistic, they can make something of this. And the people who were at dire straits gave them a bit more optimism to move them into the middle. So I know I had an effect on them. But in terms of my personal situation, last year I built a house on land I own next to my house from scratch. I started my YouTube channel from nothing. I had nothing on it at all. I learned new skills about video delivery and story and narrative, and I started writing my 6th book. So it was a busy year for me, and I know that people had some pain, but I do think I had an impact there. And what it made me realize was I was very grateful for what I already have, but I used the time wisely to sort of do new projects and do things that I found interesting. And certainly don't build your own house from scratch unless you're really, really into it. I learned a lot from that, and I've got a whole YouTube channel that shows you how I built the house from scratch in 20. My YouTube channel, Jason Butler Financial Wellbeing. You can see all 20 episodes of how we built the house from beginning to end. And that's now a business that my wife runs as a holiday let, and she loves it. So it's only taken me 25 years to find a business that she likes.
Wow, but that's amazing. I'll definitely be tuning in to see those videos for myself to see how that unfolded. So I wanted to have the opportunity for you to speak with the audience about conscious money. You mentioned it earlier, and I wanted to unpack that more. What exactly do you mean when you refer to conscious money?
Well, my next book is called Conscious Money, and that'll be out towards the end of this year, stroke January. We're not sure exactly when. And that is really, if thinking about it, it's my latest thinking. It's around 4 key concepts about the role of money. The one is the need that we all have for meaning in our life. And meaning is around our identity, our beliefs, our need for security, and our need for freedom or control.
Yes.
Then there is the idea of the mindset. So when it comes to mindset and the role of money, then it's really thinking about how we our money beliefs, what we believe to be about money, about our views about growth and taking personal responsibility, about the importance of time and how we use it and how we think about our lives and our lifestyles and our life length. And it's also thinking about the habits that we develop.
Right.
And then it's the mechanics, and the mechanics is just the 5 things that never really change. It's that controlling spending, it's doing wise things, with what you don't spend, it's making sure you avoid or manage or get rid of debt, it's building sensible investments, and I call it the human way, the easy way, and the physical way, and the hard way. And that's probably relevant for your audience here, and that's in the book. And when I mean about those, the human way is investing in yourself to make yourself more valuable and create more value in the world. That could be learning new skills, could be developing your contacts, that could be developing emotional intelligence, your soft skills, your communication skills, not just about business skills. It could be counting, it could be learning how to read a balance sheet, anything that helps you be more valuable. Then there's the easy way, which is investing in index funds. That's just a low-cost, simple way of buying capitalism, right? Because as Warren Buffett said, if you don't find a way to make money when you're asleep, you'll be working till you die.
True.
And there's no shame in working for someone. And I work for someone half the week. I work for clients. I do jobs for people and they trade my time for money. But it's not the only thing I do, and I enjoy doing it. And it has more than just the money to me. And then there's, of course, the physical way, which is property. They're not making land anymore, and so there is good ways of making money from property, whether that's flipping, whether that's holiday lets, whether that's traditional rental, whether it's development, whatever it is. But that's a business. It's not a get-rich-quick scheme.
Right.
And then there is what I call the hard way. The hard way is building and growing your own business beyond property. Building and growing a business that you sell for money, and I've sold 2 and I've made a lot of money selling them. It's not easy. It's not for everyone, and it is very high risk. But if it goes right, it can go amazingly. And I'm an angel investor in several businesses, in every single one of those businesses. And these are the ones that have succeeded. I've churned and burned through about 4 or 5 other businesses. I've had 2 great big successes and 4 big failures.
I like that you mentioned those. Yeah, the failures.
The failures. Let me tell you about the failures, and this is important, I think, for your things. First of all, you must never stop aiming. It's like tennis. You must never stop hitting the balls. You must never stop looking to create opportunities. But what you've got to, and it's not for the fear. I tried one business. It's not a lot of money, 10,000 quid. It was about video meetings, right? This was 6 years ago, but it was a new type of video meeting where you could be fully immersive. But we were too far ahead of the time, right? We were 6 years too ahead. But it wasn't working. The people I was with were nice. The technology was kind of there, but it wasn't picking up. So I had to cut that dead. 10 grand, but it was the right idea at the wrong time. So that's another one. Another one was, a great idea about delivering financial advice to people in a virtual sense. Problem was the people I got involved in were the wrong people. They had psychological issues, and they got very upset when there was any kind of failure. They couldn't cope with downsides and problems, couldn't cope with problem solving, thought everything was personal. So I had to cut that dryer. That was 30 grand down the toilet. But I learned a lot about, I trust my character. I knew that this guy wasn't right eventually, initially, but I'd had a go and I found out about it. Again, that now, virtually delivered advice is now becoming mainstream. So it was the right idea, again, the wrong time with the wrong people. And there's some others that, around the edge, I back some people with complete harebrained ideas, but I like them and I thought I'd go. But the ones that are doing well, and don't get me wrong, they're not going in a straight line. There's, some months and weeks we think, oh my God, but they are those investments, I would say, for an outlay of 250,000 in total, I think those investments will probably today be worth about 2.5 million.
So you made up on the losses.
Oh yeah, but don't get me wrong. You outlay. I mean, you may not have to. You may outlay a lot more or a lot less. But the point I'm saying is, you have to keep on. Like anything, you diversify. You can't just be doing one thing. And I know they say do one thing and do it really, really well and get the most out of it. But to me, bear in mind, this was my risk capital and businesses that I didn't want to run, but I wanted to add value through connections, through know-how, through being a friend to the owners, the founders, because they're not the finished article. And some will do brilliantly and some won't. But I still work for a living. I still enjoy what I do. I still get lots of different clients paying me. I write for the FT, as you know, and do various things like that. And so I've realised that, and this is really important for your people to realise what really floats your boat, what really gets the energy out of you beyond just earning the money. So for me, the paradox is I've got the most money I've ever had in my life, and yet I spend the least that I've ever spent. And that is what I call conscious money. And I'm not saying that's right or wrong. I'm just saying I'm very comfortable in my own skin. My idea of a great night is to sit with a glass of rosé, sit with my wife out here on the patio, talk about the week, what we're going to do at the weekend, or perhaps go for a run before, have a shower. That sort of thing, to me, that's everything, And I said to people, if you haven't got money in your life right now, and this is a big theme of Conscious Money, my book, you need to focus on getting people in your life, because people who matter, people who care, people who love you, they'll always be there for you, come what may. And the funny thing is, when you've got connections, people that you care, and there'll be a range of intimacy in terms of very close and people, all the way through to people you like and you're interested in as people, and I think that's really important, to constantly be investing in decent, lasting range of relationships. So I'll give you an example. A chap I worked with in one company, he was the marketing director, a genius, but had lots and lots of mistakes in his life, and he got to 56, got no money. But he's now come up with an idea, and I've regularly checked in with him, because he's working on his own now. Hasn't got many people he can talk to, just to check in every month or so. How is he going? How's the new business? Is there anything I could do to help? It's not about me getting any money out of him, but I genuinely want him to do well. And I count that as an interesting relationship. Now, look, if I was down, or I needed a handout, or I needed a help on something, or an introduction, he would do things for me because I've done things for him. I'm not doing it to do that, but I'm looking to help someone be the best version of them, and in the thing, I'm putting in the time sensibly to build that wealth of connection. And I say to people, if you build your human connections, if you build your friendships, if you build your trusting relationships, the people that you enjoy being with, and don't get me wrong, some people you'll like to have a beer with or a cup of tea or whatever it is you're into, and some people you want to do business with. They're not always the same, but just spending that time being humble, being grateful, and trying to be abundant in thought.
And the mention I've seen, connection is currency. That's something I found very profound. Connection is currency.
I totally agree with that. I think the way to look at this is that, first and foremost, this is a really important thing. Yes, you need to have enough money to put food in your belly,
for sure,
and a roof over your head, and have clothes. No one's under any illusion, right? The Good Samaritan didn't just have money, didn't just have good intentions, he had money. You have to have enough for the basics. But the problem comes is that, one, we keep putting off our happiness until this day when we are rich, or when we have enough, or when we are a success, and that is BS. I can tell you now, once you've got food in your belly and some kind of decent roof over your head, everything else is just incremental. So give you an example. Someone who's on absolute minimum benefits or minimum wage, or on a very low income, really, really struggling, right? If they go from that struggling to, let's just say, usually US currency, right? So let's say they go from that to $35,000 a year. They are going to be a lot happier. They're going to have a big uptick in happiness from absolute on the floor to modest, not high earning, but a modest wage, okay? But the
Right.
person who goes from $35,000 to $350,000 doesn't get 10 times the happiness uplift, doesn't get 10 times the fulfillment. They don't get 10 times the health and the well-being and the deep sense
Right.
of humanity that you need to have a lasting and fulfilling life. And so that's the point, is that as we get richer, as we get more income, we don't get necessarily more happier. We might make ourselves feel better about ourselves and validated, and that's the point. So we have to understand the difference between intrinsic motivation, where we are values-led and principles-led, to extrinsic motivation, where we're doing stuff because we want someone else to say we're well done, that we're loved, that we are someone of, we've got status. So I'm not
That
saying
validation.
validation is a big thing, and I'm not saying that doesn't have a part to play, because humanity is all about that kind of looking around, friend and foe, and are you with me or against me? I get that. But consciousness, which is what we're talking about, conscious money, is about raising above that, so that you don't get drawn into the capitalism idea, like the Grant Cardone, look, I've got 10 cars, look at me and my private jet. And that's great. Good luck to the guy. And I know he's probably a decent bloke and he's done very well, but doesn't turn me on, because I see through all that. All I see is carbon use. I see it squandering assets. I see it as external validation seeking.
Yes.
Like, I'm not interested. Tell me what you're doing to add value to humanity. Tell me what you're doing to leave a mark, a legacy beyond just spending money and making money. And so I'm not here to give a big lecture. I'm just saying that you see beyond that. Right? He's no different from the guy down the road here who's driving around in a big Range Rover on finance, right? But he couldn't put his hands on £5,000. A bloke in the village where I live here, right? He's living the life. It's the same thing. I'm not saying he couldn't, but So for me, conscious money, and this is where you get real freedom, is when money no longer has power over you, because you're not seeking that validation. Don't get me wrong. I love it when my investments, when there's a round goes on or if someone takes it out and, I'm 10x up, I feel good, right? Aren't I smart? And I said to my wife, actually, I'm like Gary Player, I practice a lot, and that's how I get more luck, because, I learn from mistakes. I try things. I keep sending out, the things. And I really do believe, I'm not one of these big keen law of attraction type, The Secret type things, but I do believe the universe is a form of energy. And I say this as a committed atheist, and I'm not here to offend anyone who's deeply religious or a person of faith, but I say it as a thinking atheist, someone who's really thought about religion and rejected it as part of my life. Because what I feel, though, is that if you go out doing good in the world, if you go out building value, adding value, if you always go out to treat people well, if you always go out to try and make a balanced deal, not have people over, don't do things to the nth degree, then what happens is there's a lovely peace that comes over you. Because even if someone does do something dishonest to you or tries to weed all out or something, you rise above that. You just move on. You just don't deal with those people again. And again, it's that in order for you to be trusted, you have to trust people, but you have to trust people wisely. And that comes from just doing small bits and showing vulnerability yourself and just telling people, I don't know all the answers. I say to people, when I was in my 20s, if there was a triple gold for useless with money, I would have won it, right? And I mean that. But the point is having been in that situation and coming through it. And don't get me wrong, there's plenty more people who are wealthier than me, plenty of people who got loads more money than me, but I don't believe they're any happier than me. And don't get me wrong, it's much nicer to have money than not have it. Let's get that one clear, right? It's much better to have 7 figures in the bank than it is to have 6, from my opinion. But it's not the be all and end all. It's kind of almost like, if that's what you're going for, you probably won't get it. You've got to focus. If you believe that you're worth millions will eventually come to you. But if you secretly deep down doubt yourself, if you secretly deep down don't think you're worthy, if you imbue that with all the power and all the meaning in the world, it just won't come to you. And I've become wealthy in spite of myself, not because of myself, but because I've gradually learned this consciousness. I've gradually got this slightly raised myself beyond this,
the elevation mentally.
But don't get me wrong, I get up with like a bear with a sore head sometimes. I get up with moods. I get up sometimes when everything annoys me. I'm not Eckhart Tolle. I'm human. And I've got all my frailties and shortcomings. What I have, though, is a framework, a bit like if you ever played squash. We all sometimes, if you play squash, it's an infuriating game. You're meant to get back to the middle all the time. And if you occasionally find yourself, you're pinned down on the wall and you can't get back to and then they do the shot over here, you're never going to get it. So the key principle is not that we're we don't have weaknesses and frailties and don't have shortcomings and we aren't human and all that stuff, but that we've got a framework to bring ourselves back to the middle. So when I'm making a decision about money, I always go back to what is important and what do I stand for and who am I? And how does this affect the legacy? How does this affect my happiness and fulfillment? And that's what I always do. And if someone does something, if someone, I just won't work with people who are rude. I won't work with people who are conniving. There's just as much as you need to know what you want in your life, you also, I believe, need to know what you don't want in your life. And I don't want to be, chasing monthly payments and having to make this and that for an illusion to keep other people thinking I'm successful. I want the lowest possible cost lifestyle so that I can do anything. That to me is freedom.
That is freedom. And I like the fact that you mentioned being anchored and being true to yourself. That is critical. So I wanted to just touch on real quickly then 3 actionable things, 3 things that you would share with persons as they develop that consciousness with money for themselves.
Yeah, I mean, again, I put this in the book, but this is a really good thing, is to write down all your money beliefs, all your beliefs about money. Just spend some time one afternoon when hopefully you're not under stress and got loads of things to do, and just write down everything you believe or that's going on in your head about money. And then highlight all of the ones that are negative or regressive or limiting. And then each of those limiting ones, really look at them and say, okay, so is this true? Why do I believe this? Where's this coming from? Was this mum, dad, granny, granddad? Was this my teen years and a trauma I had? Was this an abusive partner or someone who had my ex or whatever? Where's this coming from? And what you really want to do is not reject it, but just, as I say, it's the Stoics say, give it a lovely big cuddle. All those self-limiting beliefs, each one of them, draw them in, give them a big sloppy kiss. Yeah, and just say, come here, and treat it like a little child, right? And just say, it's okay, all right? It's going to be okay. And then what you start to do is you start to think, and then you reframe it. So again, this is on the first thing. So you reframe it and say, whereas you might say, well, I'm no good at maths or I'm not good with numbers. That then becomes, look, maths and numbers is not my strong point. So therefore I have to spend a little bit longer making, thinking and planning my finances. That's the truth, but it's a variation of that belief. All right?
Yes.
So that's the first thing you do.
I like that.
The second thing I would suggest you do is also, it's very easy to think everyone else is doing better than you and everyone else has got it figured out and everyone knows more than you and everyone's somehow more of a hot shot, right? But what I think you've got to do is actually look at how far you've come. So whether you're the single parent mother who's struggling to make ends meet, right? Look at the progress you've made over the last 5, 10, 15 years. So if you've got young children, you didn't have children before. Aren't they a miracle? I know they're infuriating, but aren't they a miracle? If you've had some trauma in your life, but you've still got good health, I've got my health. So in other words, look at the progress that you've made, not what you haven't got. Be thankful and grateful for what you have. And that's gratitude. That's the second principle, gratitude. So being grateful for what you've got and the progress you've made will reinforce your confidence. And actually, then what you can do, and this is the really hard part of this, is to think, what do I think I might be in 5, 10, 15 years' time? Not what I have, who I might be. We find it, what we have to do is get very connected and have an intimate, loving, close relationship with our future self. Because the more connected you are to your future self, then the more you're going to be mindful about your current day-to-day decisions. Because all the time that it's a perfect stranger that you don't know anything about, you don't have any empathy with, then your daily decisions and actions it doesn't matter, does it? But all the time you're connected with that future person, and that comes from looking at where you've come from, the progress you've made, and how that might change in 5, 10, 15 years' time. And I like to look at 5-year cycles. I think, I'm 52, I can see myself at 57. I don't really want to think about myself at 70, right? So whatever it is, we find that harder because we think about being old, frail, and dying. Right, and that's pain, so we don't want to go there.
No.
And then the third thing I would do is I would really want everyone to think about lowering your expectations. I don't mean about what your life could be and where it could go and what you could achieve and what you could do. Don't put your happiness off to some dim, distant future date, because all the time having these big lofty goals that are long in the future it just won't happen, or you'll be putting your happiness off forever. You want to be happy today, but you want to be going in a direction that makes you feel like you're making progress of your life and it meaning something. So I think the way I would sort of express it to people is really focus on making small changes on a daily basis that you can stick with, that are broadly pointing in the direction, a milestone. So I don't like goals. I mean, fair enough. If you've got a goal of getting mortgage free, that's a clear goal, but I like milestones. I
Yes.
want, so rather than be, I'm going to be debt free, is I'm going to reduce my debt. That's the direction I'm going in. Oh, and
Yes,
the daily decision.
I like it.
My daily decision is I'm going to find a way of earning $100 a month more or £100 a month more, and that's going to go off the debt, right? Small steps, really small steps. So they're the three things that I would suggest.
Yeah, for sure. Consistent small steps takes you to that milestone, and then you go to the next one and you keep going. Well, this has been amazing. Thank you so much, Jason, for your time. Uh, I'm just lost for words with just the insights you've shared. And I like the fact that your work is leaving an impact and that you are focused on making the world better than you came into it. We need more of
as
you.
I say, yeah, well, no, absolutely. I don't know all the answers. If people want to follow my video work, obviously my YouTube channel is Jason Butler Financial Wellbeing. Love to see people sign up there. We do new videos every week. I do Money Minutes, which is a 1 minute behavioural or psychological one.
Ooh.
We do Explainer series. We just did one about what is a global index fund. I've done another one on understanding what does it mean to retire. I've got every week I'm doing stuff, and I'm also doing stuff based on what people are asking me to do. So there's, and even if you've got this figured out, that material might help someone you care about, where you, it's a bit like your children. They won't listen to you about teaching the subject, but they're listening to a stranger at school.
Yes, for sure. Okay, and so you've shared how persons can reach you and stay in touch and stay connected to your messaging
And Instagram,
your
JB the Wealth Man. I'm on Instagram, JB the Wealth Man. I'm on Twitter. I'm not as active on Twitter, but I'm on Twitter. But Instagram, do a live every Tuesday night, UK time, 7:30 at night. You ask me any question you want, but each week I do one. This week, tonight, I'm doing one, how to handle a windfall. So there's always something for everyone. And they also appear on my YouTube channel. So if you miss them live, you can watch them again.
Catch them there. Okay, perfect. Thank you, Jason.
Pleasure. Thanks very much for asking me on. Nice to talk.
Bye.